It was a pretty star.
I'm so glad this company, like when you see their logo, you know you're going to get something good. I mean, they haven't released a whole lot, but you know what they have released so far is fantastic.
The, define a lot, dude. This is their second game.
Oh, I'm just saying they haven't released a lot, and I think that's a good thing because you know that the two games they released have both been outstanding. This and of course Bastion, which people say Transistor's the spiritual successor to Bastion. Would you agree?
I would not.
Okay.
And I can go into several different reasons as to why,
Mhm.
but ultimately, I mean, they're both excellent games, but Transistor is my favorite out of the two, and is also like, aside from so many other points that I can relate with, I feel like it's exposition. It takes like the foundation of Bastion, and then it expands it to like such an incredible, like, I don't know. People like to say that it's a spiritual successor because I mean they're sort of playing off of like the same story beats of Bastion, where there's like the calamity here. I'm sorry, the calamity from is that here or is that Bastion?
Calamity's Bastion, yeah.
Yeah, so Bastion's calamity, and yet here there's this group working behind the scenes that's slowly like fucking up everything. And then not only that, like Kid, you sort of kind of got a little bit of, I don't know, you kind of like, I don't want to say relation, but you kind of understood his conflict or his role in the situation, and he went along with it. Here, they make it so much more personal, and it's immediately
Yeah. But they've always kind of, with both games, always kind of dealt in areas of gray. Like, they never gave you specific things that have happened. They kind of will give you some context, but it's always been kind of shrouded in mystery. Like, you don't really know what exactly happened. You kind of have to find out through... I mean, the narrative kind of gives you some information, but I feel like a lot of it's context and things in the game that kind of tell the story for you. I mean, a lot of that stuff is just like in reading like the text in these terminals that you'll find, like when you do the voting and stuff like that, and then with Bastion, it was just kind of when you talk to people that were kind of stranded on that small little island with you.
Yeah, but even then here, like so let's talk about this. This is easily like one of the biggest selling points. I will say, while the dynamic of switching off between like turn-based, action-based, and like kind of juxtaposing those two completely different playstyles together is intriguing. I feel like the one thing that like Transistor fucked up was just I would say I don't want to say delivery, but just introduction of it. Like,
no, I agree. I feel like the learning curve is a little steep. Bastion, I think, I mean, it sucks to keep on comparing to Bastion, but it's kind of hard to not to. But yeah, I agree. I feel like they don't really explain it in great detail, and it's not as seamless as it was in Bastion or other games like this. Like, you kind of have to just play around with it. And then, when you, what is it when you, like, you take certain perks and put them on different attacks, and you kind of mix and match them and create new ones. I know you talked about this last time we talked about the game, and playing around with that whole dynamic can be kind of hard at first, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, especially even then, see, each perk will be a benefit in some way, especially when you mess around with the side quests and the challenges. But yeah, I felt like because I didn't exactly get enough, I don't know, there's not a whole lot of subtext that really kind of gives you more of an idea or direction as to like what would best fit with others or what sounds like it would be fun to experiment with. I have to say that the side quests here, I did not complete them all to the degree that I did Bastion. Like Bastion, I perfected. Bastion's one of the few games that I have completely demolished. Here, I was a bit... I'm still like not all the way there, but see, what makes it my favorite is just moments like this. Within seconds, like, you immediately have this attachment, and just it draws you in, and like, just, God, that fuck.
It's the art, it's the music, everything about the presentation is just like bar none, like the best of any game. Like, I don't care what level of production value goes into it or the money it goes into it. Like, what they can do with just a few simple static images and that soundtrack is ridiculous. I mean, it really sucks you in.
Well, even in that entire moment where it gives you the just turn around and you hear the mysterious voice coming from the transistor sword, just turn around, and you can actually just sit there and linger and kind of let it soak in and make the story allows you to make it your own story. It's I don't know, it's incredible.
It really is, yeah.
So and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I did want to mention something. Have you beaten the game? I
have not. No.
All right. Well, there's not a lot that we can really relate to, but I will say, the new game plus, it's bullshit. So like, it is Jesus Christ. Like,
that's a bummer.
I really wanted to play the game over again and just experience the whole thing over again because that's how much the story and everything really drew me in. And yeah, I would have to say there's a lack of balance because there are certain enemies like that are just absolutely relentless. And see, the one thing we don't really get to demonstrate it here, but see, Transistor is also really unclear in just exactly like where the risk is as far as trying to stay on top and not take damage and not be defeated, because at any point that you're ran down the gamut to where your health is drained completely away, you'll either be completely fine and you'll regenerate everything as if nothing happened, or you will lose out on one of your loadout moves, which can either be anywhere from like slightly inconvenience to an absolute detriment, and then you're fucked.
Yep, you're done at that point.
Yeah, like the moment you lose, like if you were to lose,
is it kind of random what they take though?
It is. So like okay, the jaunt is very good as far as essentially clearing distance and
creating distance. Yeah.
And even then, it's also it doesn't take a whole lot of the action mirror. So there's a lot of strategy involved, but at the same time, because everything is it's so randomized in what happens when you fail, it just makes every situation where you're against some pretty steep odds a little too tense. I don't know. And then I have to say that even though there are two different play styles, and I'd like to ask your opinion on this, how often did you actually just do the action-based combat? I mean, I felt like
without pausing it to like plan it out.
Yeah.
Oh no, hardly ever. I mean, I feel like I kind of watching you play this. It's kind of the same strategy I used. I mean, I would sometimes attack if it was like, I guess like if it was getting very hectic, I would kind of attack just because I felt like I didn't have time to really slow things down. But yeah, I always tried to like create some distance and then kind of pause to figure out a strategy. Like I was always about creating distance. I never wanted to stay too close for too long. So you always kind of backed up and then try to plan out your attacks doing it that way. Now I did that quite a bit. I mean, almost I'd say 70% of the time.
I feel like there are a lot of times I did the action-based strategies around my projectile tactics. So there are certain other moves that you'll get later on in the game. I mean, one of my favorites is a grenade that also has like concussive fire that like then continues to spread out, and it's really good for crowd control. And at any point that like I didn't find myself in a position where I had enough time, or I was in a position like here, I kind of have a line to where I'm able to not only play around and kind of do some some fucking subsequential damage there between crowds, but like I was in a very lucky situation there because a lot of point the environment does, like, I don't know, the environment really works against you. I feel like it works against you way more than it ever works for you, just because
the barricades kind of get in your way more than they help you, like, create some kind of barrier.
Yeah, it's never a situation where it's really helpful for evasion. More or less, it's just another fucking obstacle
to get in your way.
Yeah, but like even then, like just like knowing that I could find some way to like time a jaunt behind a jerk just right and be able to get their back always always, I don't know, it's situations like this where I felt like I was able to, even then, like, I barely clipped his weak spot right there, but it did the job.
I guess, like, playing this game now, if I were to play it, I think I'd be kind of, like, almost, because you don't get, like, higher scores for mixing up your attacks, do you?
No.
It's just that some attacks cost more than others.
Yeah, I'm
so used to playing something like Sunset Overdrive now, to where I would try to, like, mix up my attacks just for, like, this pure style of it, you know, trying to, like, mix up things, you know, so I'm not doing the same thing over and over, but you really couldn't get away doing that. Or maybe you could, I don't know.
I in the beginning, like right now, it's still very early. Near the end of the game, I feel like the game waits a little too long to like kind of give you more freedom and more.
So you open it up.
Yeah, and even then, again, it goes right back to the initial complaint that we had, to where, you know, a lot of everything that's done with the game isn't very clearly introduced. I love that moment. I'm sorry. The game's definitely very aware of like all the player actions. It was, I don't know. It was weird because Transistor takes what like Bastion did for narrative and like fucking hits it out of the park. Like does it so better. Like like absolutely enhances the entire experience and thrill and engagement of this sort of like humble yet colorful and enchanting like narrative and fucking just development. But as far as the gameplay, I felt like it got a little bit more ambitious, or I don't know, they didn't really, I don't want to say follow through, it's just it definitely feels clunkier than Bastion did.
Do you think it'll go mobile like Bastion did, or maybe PC, or talking on PC? Do you think it'll go mobile?
I doubt it, only because Bastion was a little bit more simplistic in mechanics and way more action-based. There's a lot more going on here, but that moment right there where you're being begged to turn around, like, I don't know, that this is what you come to Transistor for.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fun game here, but who knows? I mean, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it. So, you know, just feel free to comment or talk shit to us. Mailbag at presspodradio.com. Either way, thank you for checking out Play from Press Pause Radio.
This latest Play video from Press Pause Radio was brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/presspauseradio, and you can get access to over 100,000 titles to choose from your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.